Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking Dr. Robert A. Peterson's theological framework of general revelation, and we're doing it using this really fascinating outside-in approach. We're diving straight into a profoundly big concept. How exactly do human beings perceive the divine? So whether you're a theology buff or just, curious about the philosophical frameworks behind human morality, stick around. This is going to be a completely illuminating journey.
We're mapping this whole thing out in 5 quick parts today, defining general revelation, evidence in creation, the light in the darkness, the law on the heart, and finally, the barometer of conscience.
Let's get to it. So, Part 1, defining general revelation, or what you might call the cosmic billboard. Let's set the foundation here.
According to Dr. Peterson's take on Romans chapter 1, general revelation is basically a universal baseline of knowledge about the divine, and the key here, it's available to absolutely everyone. We're not talking about something locked away in a specific holy book or handed down to just a select group of prophets. No, it's a constant, universal broadcast. Literally everyone gets it. And Peterson points out it operates on 2 distinct channels. First, externally, by looking outward at physical creation, and second, internally, by looking inward at our own moral conscience. Dr. Peterson actually breaks down 4 very specific criteria for this external part of the revelation, and he draws this straight from his lecture notes on Romans 1, verse 20. Paul's writing here is what explains exactly how this massive cosmic broadcast actually works. Let's look at how he builds this. First up, the mode. The mode of this revelation is creation itself. Then there's the content. It isn't some complex theological textbook. It's actually just God's eternal power and divine nature. Simple, right? The timing is completely constant. It's been happening nonstop since the very beginning of the world. And finally, the extent. It is universally widespread. Everyone, literally everywhere, receives this baseline message just by existing. Moving on to Part 2, evidence in creation and 2 different responses. Because think about it, how does humanity actually respond to all this cosmic evidence? It's one thing to broadcast a message, but it's a completely different ballgame when it comes to how it's received.
Peterson draws a really sharp contrast here between 2 famous biblical texts. On one hand, you've got Psalm 19. Here, believers who are operating within a covenant relationship look at the evidence of creation, and their response is worship, joy, and delight. But on the flip side, over in Romans 1, Peterson notes that humanity's default response is to actively suppress the truth. I mean, people don't naturally look up at the stars and immediately glorify the Creator. Instead, according to the text, their thinking becomes foolish. They exchange the truth for a lie, basically fighting tooth and nail against the very evidence staring them right in the face.
All right, Part 3, the light in the darkness, illuminating the Word. Now we transition from physical creation over to the concept of illumination. And to do this, Peterson zeroes in on the super poetic prologue of John chapter 1. He identifies this absolutely brilliant, ancient literary structure here. It's called the chiasm. Now, if you aren't familiar with that term, a chiasm is an inverted parallelism. Basically, it shapes the text like a giant X. Look at how it works. In step 1, the eternal Son is called the Word. In step 2, he's called the light. Then the whole structure mirrors itself backwards. In step 3, we see the light coming into the world. And finally, in step 4, the Word becomes flesh. It's such an elegant setup, it intentionally bundles the whole passage together, directly linking the eternal Creator Word to the light that reveals God to humanity. But the absolutely crucial takeaway from John 1 is this. Peterson points out that the darkness isn't trying to, politely understand the light. No, it is actively trying to stamp it out. He notes that the original Greek text implies the darkness is fighting the light, desperately wanting to extinguish it, but, and here's the kicker, it fundamentally cannot. Even when humanity pushes back and resists this general revelation, the light just keeps on shining. Which actually brings us to a really fun, kind of relatable thought experiment that Dr. Peterson poses. What if someone literally runs into a pitch-black cave to escape this revelation entirely? Just imagine someone saying, I want to get completely away from God. There's no sun here, no stars, no moon, no sky. God definitely can't catch me in here.
Well, Peterson argues that even in that utter, total darkness and the dead quiet of that cave, you're still going to hear your own heartbeat. You cannot escape the reality of creation because, well, you are the creation. Hearing your own heartbeat in the dark is this inescapable encounter with external, general revelation. The physical, beating reality of your own body testifies to the Creator. And honestly, that bodily reality is the perfect bridge right into our next section.
Which is part 4, the law on the heart, or what we can call the inner compass. So we're making a pretty dramatic pivot here from the outside world all the way into the inner world. This is the concept of internal general revelation, and it's found in Romans chapter 2. To really ground this kind of abstract idea, Peterson uses a super practical example from his lecture. He points to completely non-religious couples. You know, the demographic folks often call the knowns, zero religious affiliation whatsoever. And yet, these couples are completely faithful to one another. They lovingly raise their kids, they discipline them, they do the right things.
Even without knowing a single religious law, no 10 Commandments, no laws of Moses, they just instinctively live by these moral principles. So why is that? Well, Peterson explains that this moral framework is literally written directly onto the human heart. The Apostle Paul says they are a law to themselves. Sure, they might not overtly give God the credit, but instinctively, driven by this internal revelation, they practice faithfulness and love. They do it because it just perfectly aligns with the reality of God's design.
To push this further and illustrate humanity's, let's call it complex relationship with this inner law, Peterson contrasts two very different types of people outlined by Paul. First, you've got the overt sinners from Romans 1. Deep down, they know God's righteous decree, but they blatantly ignore it. They even egg others on to join in. But then you have the hypocrites from Romans 2. These folks condemn everyone else for their bad behavior, judging them super harshly while secretly doing the exact same things behind closed doors. The wild part? Both groups actually prove they possess that inner moral law. They're just interacting with it in two very different, deeply flawed ways.
And that leads us to part 5, the barometer of conscience. The actual biological and psychological mechanism that monitors this internal law, that's what Peterson calls our barometer of conscience.
Now here's the thing. Our conscience, it is definitely not flawless. Peterson actually jokes that the great theologian Jiminy Cricket was dead wrong. It is simply not true that you should, quote, always let your conscience be your guide. Why not? Because a human conscience can be abused. It can be twisted or heavily biased over time. It's a barometer for sure, but it is a damaged one.
Drawing a bit on C.S. Lewis here, Peterson points out a totally universal human trait, one I'm sure we all recognize. Our conscience absolutely screams when someone wrongs us. I mean, the second someone steps on our turf, the alarm goes crazy. But when we're the ones doing something wrong, we conveniently rationalize the whole thing. We tell ourselves, oh, everybody's doing it, or, nobody's going to see me.
Peterson's ultimate thesis sums this up so beautifully. Every single human heart has the law of God written on it. Humanity possesses this deep, innate moral compass provided by God. And that, right there, is internal general revelation. But because of our fallen nature, we constantly struggle to read that compass objectively. We suppress the truth outside of us, and we twist the conscience inside of us.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer on general revelation, I want to leave you to ponder a final question about your very own internal compass. Think about it. How often does your barometer of conscience conveniently excuse your own actions while aggressively accusing the people around you? It's definitely a challenging thought to end on, but it perfectly proves Dr. Peterson's point. The revelation is there, the law is absolutely on our hearts, but what we actually do with it, that reveals everything. Thanks so much for joining us, and keep exploring.